Hey, how's it going? My name's Nico. I go by COINTrick and cointricktwitch online. And today I'm going to show you guys how to make super juice. Specifically lime super juice, but I'll talk a little bit about what super juice is and how easy it is and why you should do it at home or at work if you do this for a living. First, I have a whole bunch of limes. I'm going to take about half of these and I'm going to peel half of them. And we're gonna keep the meat of these because I think we have to use the juice when we're making the super juice later on. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to keep half of these whole so that I can make a cocktail with them later, and we can compare and see exactly what the difference is in terms of like whether you use fresh limes, fresh store-bought limes, or if you make a super juice or you're using a super juice at your bar. All right, so we've got 8 limes in here. We have 8 limes right here. We need to weigh the mass of the peels. So let's do that. Make sure we're in grams, which we are. So I do know that there should be some level of technique to this. You should try and avoid the pith of the lime because that can impart bitter flavors into your final product. But I'm trying to minimize the number of strokes that I have to make across the lime. I can tell you already, I'm probably getting a significant amount of pith doing it the way that I am. Also, this kind of peeler, this kind of upright peeler, is not the best to do this. In my opinion, you'll get better results if you use a Y peeler, if you're doing this at home or if you're doing this at work. This is just what I'm used to because I grew up peeling potatoes. This is what you want your lime to look like. You see how you can't really see the meat or the inside of the lime? You can see some parts where it's still kind of green, but it's still mostly white, which means we've left a lot of the pith around the lime itself. Compared to the first one that we did, where you can definitely see the meat of the lime in there. It doesn't super duper matter because if you do have a byproduct that is too bitter at the end of this, you can always add a pinch of salt, which inhibits your body's ability to perceive bitter flavors. You can do that if you want to. But we are gonna end up using the whole lime by the end of this process. So set these aside, keep them clean, and continue on. I grew up peeling potatoes, but I will go on record as saying that that is not how I would peel a potato, in case anyone is wondering. Very odd point of pride for me. If anyone's wondering, what a super juice is, essentially, is where you take a juice that normally has these compounds that would break down, decompose over time. Lime juice is the main one. There are bartenders that will argue about the half-life of the oxidization. The rate at which lime juice and limes will oxidize at room temperature. There are bartenders who will talk about that literally until the sun comes up. So what super juice allows you to do is it allows you to use more of the fruit in general, and with using some additional chemical compounds, citric acid, malic acid. Sometimes you use things like MSG. I'm not using that in this recipe, but by doing that, you actually create more juice, so the individual fruits go further during service, and they last longer. They have a longer shelf life. I'm getting kind of bold, making sure that I get all these peels here. All right, I'm proud of myself. I'll try not to do that again. You know, the myth is that you can take like 2 ounces of lime juice and turn it into something like 10 ounces of lime juice. I don't remember exactly how the math of the volume and everything works out by the end of this, but it also helps that juice lasts much longer than freshly juiced lime juice. What I'm worried about is the consistency of quality between the two, which is why I'm keeping half of these limes unskinned to see kind of what the difference in those 2 drinks is going to be when I'm done. Let's go back over and fix some of these pieces and get them to look more like these pieces. Let's get rid of some of those bright green areas around these limes. This time I'm using very quick, gentle strokes. And we've managed to mostly correct this lime, so you shouldn't see any more of those bright green areas. They're mostly not skin aside from the tops and bottoms because I don't know how to skin those effectively. The skins will actually, of limes, lemons, grapefruit, oranges, yuzu, whatever citrus you're using at home, they're actually going to have a lot more flavor, and they aren't going to have that same sort of decaying half-life as the juice on the inside of your fruit. All right, I think I've done it. I don't think I have much more of these to work with. With 8 limes, we have exactly 60 grams of peels, or zest. Pull out your phones. If you just Google lime super juice calculator, you will find one online. We have 60 grams of peels, not 600, just 60. So we're gonna need 40 grams of citric acid and about 20 grams of malic acid and 1,000 grams of water. Before you add the water or anything like that, you should add your acids on top of the peels that you have so that they can kind of macerate the peels, break them apart, and break them down a little bit before you add the water. So, first, what is it that we needed? 40 grams of citric acid. All right, truth be told, I don't know what 40 grams is gonna look like, but hopefully it fits inside of this jigger right here. We'll see. It's our citric acid that we have. It's not very acidic, but I mean, it should go without saying this isn't something you want to get on your hands. Pour this over the peels that we have. Try and make sure that you sort of spread it evenly over the peels. Next, we have our malic acid. And for this is very specific. It says we need 19.98 grams. This scale is not that specific, so we're gonna round up to 20 grams. And I've run multiple calculations on the simulator already. In general, you want 1 part malic acid to 2 parts citric acid to 3 parts lime peels by mass, if that helps. So I need 20 grams of malic acid. And you're wondering why malic acid might sound familiar. It's because malic acid is very present or prevalent in apples. All right, there we go, 20. Oh, yes. The last thing that we need to add to this technically is going to be 999.6 grams of water. That's very specific. I'm gonna round up to 1,000 grams, but I'm gonna do that live here in about an hour and a half after I let these acids kind of macerate and break down the peels that I have in here already. So that's going to be over on twitch.tv/cointrick, but if you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be now. We have the lime peels that have been dissolving in malic acid and citric acid and lime juice this whole time. Those lime peels starting to turn a little bit yellow, a little bit brown. That's normal, that's fine. Now we're adding about 1 kilogram of water. I'll say it just smells like lime juice. So this, for all intents and purposes, is already lime super juice. I kind of want to pull a little bit more flavor out of the limes that are in there. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. But in the meantime, I'm going to test 2 cocktails that use lime juice side by side and see what the difference is, because I still have regular fresh or store-bought limes from today. Literally, the limes that I used to make this and the limes that are in that are the same limes from the same bag that I bought today from the same place. We're gonna start with the same thing for both of these. This is terrible tequila. I don't recommend that you get it. We're gonna do a regular sour build for these Tommy style margs. So we're gonna do 1 part the tequila. I'm doing 1.5 ounces, or 2 parts the tequila, and then 1 part of the lime juice, and then 1 part of the agave syrup. The lime juice for one of these is going to be the lime super juice. I'm going to give it a good stir before I try and use it. And then the lime juice for the other one is going to be fresh lime juice. And we'll see what the difference is between these 2 cocktails. I actually have pretty high hopes for the super juice. There we go. I am gonna serve these up though. I'm gonna taste them in some clean shot glasses. So let me grab those really quick. I'm gonna take this whiteboard that I have and I'm going to write the one of these 2 that I think is going to be better than the other one. That way, after I taste the 2 of them and I make up my mind, if I'm wrong, you guys will be able to see that I am admitting that I'm wrong. So it would help if my penmanship was good and if I had a good pen. No one can see what's on there. That's my opinion. These have ice. Everything has been controlled and equal up until this point. The only difference between these 2 drinks is that one of them is going to have the super juice in it, and at the same ratio and measurement, and the other one is going to have fresh lime juice. That's what super juice is supposed to be for. It's really meant to work into the same recipes that you already have, so that everything can kind of remain consistent. Without further ado, let's do this. Combine the two. Wow. All right, let's try one. Cheers. I'm gonna do about half of this, I think. I lied. Not bad, not good. It's juicy for a margarita, which is weird. It's very round. It has this like weird fullness where it feels too syrupy, too sweet for like what should be a refreshing kind of like bracing drink, especially one that's this cold. Second drink. Raise them if you got them. Cheers, guys. Oh, okay, that's bizarre. That's weird. I'll show you guys my answer, and then I'll tell you which one I think was better. Fresh lime juice. Suspected that the fresh lime juice would be better for many reasons. One, it hasn't been able to oxidize for very long. Two, this has been very processed since I started working with the limes. And it's really not even done. So I thought that the super juice sample was going to be too weak, too flabby. It wasn't gonna have everything that needed to be there to really stand up. But of these two, and granted, I do want to repeat this experiment with a different tequila. Of these two, the super juice was actually superior to the fresh store-bought limes from the same pack. Kind of hard to explain why, because there are some of the flavors there in the super juice version that aren't necessarily desirable, but they add to the experience of drinking the tequila. And those same flavors are there in the fresh lime juice version. So I believe that they're probably just part of the additives that were in the tequila to begin with. The malic acid actually really comes through very cleanly, concisely, and in that crisp, refreshing way that I was talking about in the super juice version, much more than it does in the ordinary fresh store-bought lime juice. And that does add a layer of complexity and kind of like this crisp, refreshing flavor that isn't there with the fresh lime juice in this one. Granted, we're using very, very subpar tequila, so I don't want to repeat this again, but I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited to try and run this experiment again. Also, makes me a lot more excited to see how the super juice will develop over time.